It's been a long time. We shouldn't have left you. What's going on, everyone, and welcome into another edition of Open Run presented to you by none other than War Media. My name is Gabriel Wilkins, and I'm joined by none other than my backcourt mate, as well as host and senior NBA writer for War Media, Josh Hicks, for the first official episode of 2023, several days into the new calendar year. How you been holding up, bro?
Been holding up well, man. I'm glad to start the 2023 year with obviously my eloquent speaking co-host, man, because it wouldn't be right without you.
I appreciate it, man. This week's edition of Open Run is jam-packed. We got a lot to talk about, ranging from the state of affairs pertaining to several teams across the association who are fighting either to maintain or elevate upward in their respective conferences playoff picture, in addition to the Bulls also. But now that we got all of the formalities out of the way, I got to ask you, Josh, what are the things that have caught your eye across the world of basketball over the last couple of weeks while we were in the midst of our downtime period due to the holidays and whatnot? It's been some big time performances, a lot of 50-pointers, some 60-pointers, even a 70-pointer.
I know, right? All of them are just crazy numbers to put up. And obviously I'm gonna leave those to you because you're just the basketball guru when it comes to numbers. So I'm leaving all that to you. However, one person that I'm going to acknowledge had a birthday over the holidays. Matter of fact, he had it right before the new year. And my man just turned 38. And he said, I'm gonna let you guys know that even at 38, I can still ball at a high level, dropping 47 points. And the King James himself. I don't know what's shocking to you, the fact that he's dropping 47 in year 20, or the fact that, I'm not gonna lie, he don't look 38. All those millions that he got, that whatever skin routine he's doing, the Calm app that he sleeps with, whatever he does, it works out perfectly because my man does not look 38 years old at all. The only thing that may give it away is the hairline, but we're not going to worry about that right now. Right now, he's showing that even at 38 years old, I'm still one of the top scorers in the league. I'm still one of the best overall all-around players in the league, and I can still get the job done when it's needed the most. That is something special to acknowledge going into this new year, especially since this is the same person that in the next few games, most likely, or even the next few games, he's gonna pass Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as the number one scorer in this league, which is something none of us predicted when he came out of high school to the NBA in 2003. So that is something that for me was very special, amongst the other things that you have mentioned. And I'm gonna leave the floor to you to mention because clearly that's right up your alley, brother. So you got it.
Hey, I appreciate it, man. You got to do your homework before you go into these podcast studios and do your shows. But LeBron James has definitely reached the fountain of youth, and he's damn near averaging 30 a game, which is an accomplishment in itself when you consider the fact that he's damn near 40 years old. And might I add, in year 20 of his career, still setting records, setting the bar higher than it's ever been set before. You just don't see that every day in sports, let alone in the game of basketball. But I want to thank Jason Kidd, man, for finally hearing my prayers and starting Christian Wood and making some tweaks to his lineup, which as a result has helped Dallas to elevate up from 10th in the West to 4th overall in the Western Conference playoff picture since we recorded an episode together last prior to this new year coming about. One of those tweaks involves a player who caught my eye over the last several days, and is a rookie that I believe not only should have been a first-round pick, but also a consistent guy in Dallas's rotation from the time the season began, and that's Jaden Hardy, whom the Mavericks recently waived Kemba Walker to grant him a look and also provide Hardy with more minutes off the bench. Since Walker got waived last weekend, Hardy's been taking full advantage of the opportunity, and he stepped up, man, for a Maverick squad that is still without the likes of Maxi Kleber through their hamstring injury and Josh Green as well, averaging 13 points on 56% shooting from the floor, shooting 50% from deep. He's helped to provide Dallas with a major spark off of the bench, and it served as a second threat next to Luka. He gets to the rim, man, be it attacking off the catch, pushing the pace in transition, or breaking a defender down in space as of late. And I believe that the more he plays alongside of Luka, the more he's going to have a chance of being able to attack over aggressive defenders on closeouts and utilize his ability to finish at the cup, include those who overplay him on the drive. Teams are going to have to respect Hardy's ability to shoot from beyond the arc as well. This guy has league range. He's had league range since high school. I don't know what the scouts were thinking with this guy. For him to fall all the way to the second round of Dallas, it was a godsend. But he knows how to read these defenses, man, as well as how to react to them. And he's shown on nights, even when his shots aren't falling, that he can still score at an effective level and an efficient level off of the dribble, despite not being the volume scorer that he's displayed the ability to be at previous levels. He's getting it done. And if he continues to get more minutes, I would not be shocked if you see him carve out a 6-man role for Dallas, and Dallas potentially seeking to maybe let go of Tim Hardaway Jr. at the trade deadline if he continues to ball out like he has. Granted, his last game, I think he had under 10 points, and he shot maybe 2 for 8 from the field. But this is a guy who, as Bulls fans should know, when he was playing a lot of minutes in garbage time, when Luka was down and was sitting on the second night of a back-to-back in early December, he put up about 14 real quick ones on the Bulls and looked like a vet by doing it. He's been ripping the G League up. I just got to give credit to him. Thomas Bryant's another guy I could give credit to for the Lakers. Anthony Lamb for the Warriors. But it's a forward, man, on the college level, on the West Coast portion of the map. I got to give a ton of praise to NBA draft talent evaluator, a guy that I know you're familiar with, have an interview for your In the Scope pod, Josh, and that's Rashad Phillips. He put me up on this dude early in the year. I believe he has a great eye when it comes to assessing talent. This guy's a mid-major prospect out of Las Vegas who can be a guy that makes impacts on both ends of the floor at the next level. And he's likely to sneak his way into the draft lottery, if not the green room, come later on this June. And that's Maxwell Lewis, a forward out of Pepperdine, 6'7", sophomore, got a 6'10" wingspan. He's arguably one of the most efficient scoring wings in this year's draft class. He can score as a spot-up shooter, can create for himself off the dribble as well as a variety of other ways, driving to the cup with his pull-up game. And he knows how to use his size effectively enough to post up and get you a bucket. I understand he plays in the West Coast Conference. Pepperdine's schedule isn't as strong as most schools across the country may be that are among the top of the top or in the top 25. He scored at least 20 points or more in several consecutive outings, shot 60% or better from the floor in 3 of those outings. One of those coming recently in the road outing against number 10 Gonzaga, where Lewis put up 25 and 5 on 19 for 14 shooting from the floor in front of a handful of NBA scouts in Spokane. So, I mean, he features size as the position that you can't teach. He create for others as well. Something that I think he's only going to get better at with time the more and more I watch him on tape. It's a guy in Oklahoma City right now who rose up the draft boards a year ago and into the draft lottery, who came out of the same conference out of Santa Clara by the name of Jalen Williams.
Yep.
Currently shining and putting together a nice rookie campaign for himself with the Thunder out in OKC. And is a player that you're likely going to see take center stage in the Rising Stars game during All-Star Weekend in Utah. I think Maxwell Lewis could very well be next on deck next season. Watch out for him.
Hey, I feel you, man. I feel you. Anytime you mention a prospect that comes from the name of Rashad Phillips, should scare you, because that's how talented this dude really is, and how spot on he really is with a lot of his prospects when it comes to evaluating the talent across college basketball and high school basketball in general. Rashad Phillips, there's no reason why he should not be in someone's front office right now.
I agree.
Real talk, because the dude is that talented when it comes to eyeing the right talent and providing a proper nouns or pronouns to tie with the skill sets that player possesses each and every day on the court, man. So for Rashad Phillips to point out that specific talent, and that specific talent is balling right now, it doesn't surprise me at all, because that's what he does. He's Yoda for a reason. He's Yoda for a reason. So that definitely doesn't surprise me at all. But I'm surprised you didn't mention this, the 50, the 60, and the 70 scores, my brother,
Oh,
because
we gonna get to that. We
that's
definitely gonna get to that because it's a scoring boom going across the entire association.
oh yeah.
And I agree with what you said about Rashad Phillips. If you know, you know. The dude is a hell of a talent evaluator, but I took out the time to watch him with my own eyes, and I see exactly what he's talking about. And he's saying, man, that this could be a guy that's easily a 25-5 guy in the league, and it's hard not to like what I see from him, man, just because the tape stands out. And one thing about the current state of basketball right now, you can find a lot of hidden gems in places because there's so many guys that are getting under recruited.
Yeah.
A lot of Power 5 programs and scouts oftentimes sleep on. We've seen in the drafts past. We just brought up Jalen Williams, Ja Morant. Look at what he's doing now. Wasn't a Power 5 guy. The list goes on, man. But I want to move on and get right into the show this week, cutting to the chase. Talk about these NBA All-Star voting. First fan return tallies. LA Laker forward LeBron James and Brooklyn Nets forward Kevin Durant lead the Western and Eastern Conference, respectively, in the first fan returns of NBA All-Star voting, which was released this past week, as the two superstars have managed to accumulate over 3 million plus votes thus far to start in this year's event out in Salt Lake City. James is projected to be joined by Nikola Jokic of the Denver Nuggets and his Lakers mate Anthony Davis in the front court, who each ranked second and third in the first fan return tallies among front court players in the West, while Bucks star forward Giannis Antetokounmpo and Sixers center Joel Embiid also finished second and third, respectively, in the initial fan return tallies. Among the front court guys in the East is the two all-star starters from last year are currently projected to start right beside Durant in the NBA's premier gala once again. Stephen Curry and Kyrie Irving joined James and Durant as the top vote getters at their respective position groups as the two guards currently lead the voting among West and East guards, respectively. Dallas Mavs guard Luka Doncic and Cleveland Cavaliers guard Donovan Mitchell currently stand in second place among guards and fan voting for the second starting spot in the backcourt, also within their respective conferences. Bulls guard DeMar DeRozan 6'6" through the first fan returns of All-Star voting among guards in the Eastern Conference. I tell you what I took away from it, man, before I pass it over to you, Josh. I don't know how in the world Jalen Brunson and De'Aaron Fox are not in the top 10 among guards within their respective conferences in the first fan return tallies, despite having career years on teams that have surprised many thus far this year. I just don't get it. Like I saw up there that Austin Reeves has gotten more votes than De'Aaron Fox. Jordan Poole, I guess I could kind of understand it because he plays for Golden State. But at the same time, I still think that you could make a case for De'Aaron Fox having more All-Star votes than Jordan Poole. And then you got Derrick Rose garnering more votes among guards in the East than Jalen Brunson when he's the third string guard on the team behind Quickly. I don't know, man. A lot of these fans got some explaining to do. What was your thoughts and takeaways after seeing the first fan result tallies?
You took the words right out of my mouth, man. If I'm gonna add another word in there that can maybe add more emphasis to what you're talking about, it's called blasphemy. The blasphemy that comes from this all-star, like you said, Austin Reeves, fan favorite. It gets more points and it gets more, votes than Jalen Brunson, like you mentioned. Doesn't make sense. The fact that Jalen Brunson's not mentioned, the fact that De'Aaron Fox is not mentioned. If anything, those two players are the reason why their teams are even afloat right now. The Kings are sitting 5th in the Western Conference. Think about that.
Yeah.
No one thought the Sacramento Kings, but with the young core that they got, would be sitting 5th right now in the Western Conference with De'Aaron Fox leading the way. And you telling me Jordan Poole has more pool than that? He barely pooling himself. I just don't see how. I feel like, yes, we should give the fans a chance to be interactive with the event that they come out to the most for entertainment purposes. We understand that. However, it's time to lower the wage or the dial of how much emphasis we need to put on fan voting to determine who goes to these all-star events. Because at the end of the day, this does not reflect the reality of what the league should look like on both ends of the spectrum. It just doesn't. Well, even I'm gonna be critical of this. Russell Westbrook, love the guy. 6th man of the year potentially.
Right.
He is 6th in voting right now. Can we justify that considering there's a lot of other guards on both ends on both East and West that's played better than him?
That's a good point. Because as I got the numbers up in front of me, I see that Russell Westbrook has more votes than Damian Lillard and Devin Booker, who, in spite of being out at this current time due to a growing injury, you could easily say was in the race, or if not in the conversation, for the NBA's most valuable player award prior to going down. So yeah, it's definitely a reason to ask for some questions, and I get what you're saying, bro, because I got a gripe with it. I understand names. I understand that you got your box office stars. I still believe that Russell Westbrook is a box office star, even coming off of the bench. But at the same time, yeah, those are some questions that need answers, bro. Those are some questions that need answers, and they valid.
Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, top 10, ain't even play half the season. Like, what? That's where this type of voting process, when you get the fans involved, clearly separates real basketball heads versus people that just watch the game for pure entertainment. Because as we clearly see, the Paul Georges, the Kawhi Leonards, I'm just thinking about the Western Conference right now. You got Kevon Looney at 10.
Yeah. Like I said, the Warriors. It's the Warriors effect. And it's a team that's become a global franchise within itself with all of the success in which they've accumulated. I don't understand that either. You know, I can try and give you a pass with Jordan Poole. I understand this game is aesthetically pleasing to watch when he has it going on. But at the same time, man, I just don't know. I don't know how you get to that conclusion or draw that up at all. But I gotta ask you, Josh, although fans account for 50% of the vote to decide all-star starters with NBA players and a media panel accounting for 25% each, do you believe that NBA all-star fan voting should be abolished?
As much as I want to say yes, we can't eliminate it because fans have so much impact in what makes these guards and these players so box office. You have to give them some type of place in the league that allows them to interact with the game itself. So I'm not going to say we can't eliminate it, but we definitely got to dial back as far as 50% of the voting that gives the impact to choose who gets to go. No.
How much would you give them?
I'll give them 25.
So what would the other 25 go to then? Because you got, if you do it that way, then that means a quarter of the vote would be in which was what the fans account for. Then 25% NBA players, and then 25% that will consist of a media panel. Would you add like former NBA vets to this panel?
You can do that.
For the other,
I think that's possible.
25%. Okay.
Yeah, that's fine by me. I'm cool with that because at least with former veterans or former players that have played in this league, they have a better sense of probably number one, following the game, Number two, evaluating the talent that is making the game so good right now. And three, it also gives the former players the opportunity to give back to the game in a special way that hasn't been done before. So I'm actually cool with that idea. And quite frankly, because of their knowledge of the game and if they watch the game now compared to what it was in the past, they can understand, okay, who really deserves to be there and who really isn't. Or at least there's a better chance of that. I like to view the All-Star game as, even though it is meant for pure entertainment, it is also meant to be given the opportunities to the players that actually played like All-Stars throughout the season. Which this season, you're not going to get a lot of the same guys over and over that you have in previous years. There's a lot of well-worthy players that deserve to be All-Star credentialed right now. Larry Markkinen should be All-Star credentialed. You got Darius Garland should be All-Star credentialed. You got other guys in the East that should be that haven't been played before. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander should be an All-Star this year. De'Aaron Fox should be considered All-Star this year. You just mentioned Jalen Brunson should be All-Star this year. There's a lot of players that, if you really think about All-Star level capability, they have that and they've lived up to that expectation in comparison to how their teams are forming out in the standings, on not just on the Eastern Conference in general, but their divisions. That plays a bigger role and deserves a lot more credibility as far as who should join the All-Star game and who isn't, based on watching the game and analyzing the game itself. Media people do that, and yes, the players do that, but at the same time, if you're a former player, there's a better chance of you doing that on a consistent basis compared to the average fan that watches the game and over half the time probably doesn't even understand the game, but watches for pure entertainment. That's where I would lower that to 25%. And like you said, replace that with former players who if you have to go through a vetting process, you can go through a vetting process for that. But former players can take up that other 25% that can bring potentially more credibility to justify who really deserves to be in the All-Star game.
I could see that. One thing I will say though is I agree with you. I don't believe that you can abolish fan voting, man. I just don't. It's accounted for how we determine all-star starters over the course of time. And while you can argue about bringing in an NBA alumni or former all-star panel to decide who makes up the 10 guys that takes the floor for All-Star weekend, that would be tough. I think for the most part, though, the fans did get it right. I don't really have much of a gripe with how they voted thus far, because in the East, you would have Donovan Mitchell alongside of Kevin Durant and Joel Embiid, as well as Kyrie Irving and Giannis Antetokounmpo. I don't have no problem with that. I also didn't have a problem with the way in which they voted in the West, although, Zion has a legitimate argument, even though he's hurt at the present moment. I think he has just as legitimate of an argument as Anthony Davis does for that final spot in the front court.
Mm-hmm.
But with that being said, outside of that, I don't really have much of a gripe. Jason Tatum could easily have an argument as well over Joel Embiid. But somebody got to take a seat. Somebody got to get in as reserve. And I feel like more than likely that's how those two guys will end up getting in if neither one of them makes it as a starter. But with that said, I want to switch on and move away from NBA All-Star voting tallies to talk about the league-wide trend that has impacted the game as we know it. That scoring across the association is reaching such uncharted levels that many around the game are left wondering not only what's behind it, but whether or not the inflated stats in which they see are the result of a product that has become watered down. As of this recording, there are currently 5 players in the NBA who are averaging at least 30 points or more, with 3 players in close proximity to the mark averaging at least 29 points per game, marking the most ever 30-point scores that the league has seen in any year since 1963, including 14 50-point games in the process this season, matching not only the total of the 2020-21 season prior to the All-Star break, but only 5 away from the 19 50-point games the league witnessed a season ago. With all of this coming in spite of the fact that the overall pace and play has slowed down. I'll share my thoughts real quick on what I believe is behind the scoring boom before I pass to you, Josh. It's rather simple to me. Everybody wants to, moan and groan, complain about the lack of defense that is being played, when in reality, the overall skill level has increased. On top of that, the floor is more spaced out than ever before. And when you combine that with the way in which the game is being officiated nowadays, and guys being able to get to the free throw line in record numbers, this is what happens. What's your thoughts on that, Josh?
It's the same. I completely agree. Like the skill sets have changed, like you mentioned. In some cases, the pace has changed when you compare it to the early 90s and early 80s and 90s. The pace has changed. But at the same time, there's a lot more offensive-minded coaches to where offensively, like you said, the game has expanded in such a way, especially now that you're having guys like Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Damian Lillard, the logo three. Like those 3-pointers are becoming more of an emphasis than the typical mid-range to paint game. And with the offense changing the way that it is, combined, like you said, with the officiating of the game and how it is not always defensive focused, but more offensive fluent, that's going to change the game. That's going to change how teams and players can score so much at such a high, rapid pace. And to be able to do that, I think another reason too, there's a lot more shooters in this league.
Yeah.
There's a lot more people that can effectively shoot the ball, because that is the name of the game now. There's no more of this, it's still a lot of isolation play, but there's not more of playing through the paint. It's not as much of that anymore. It's a lot more of, I got to make my 3-point jump shots, because offense is targeted 3-point jump shots. The way the game is being played right now, you have people blowing layups on fast breaks just to get 3-point jump shots. So the game has changed where it's so 3-point-esque, along with the other dimensions we've mentioned before. It makes the game that much easier to focus on scoring the ball so effectively from beyond the perimeter. And that is one of the areas that's really elevated as far as what makes the game score so well and so easily. But we also got to highlight this too. When you talked about the type of people that are making these high scoring baskets, the Giannis's of the league, the Donovan Mitchell's of the league, the Luka Doncic's of the league, the commonality is it's the variety of how they score the ball. It's not solely on 3-point shooting. Those guys are getting to the free throw line.
Exactly.
They're shooting 15, 20 free throws a game almost. Like the fact that they're shooting that many free throws, making that many free throws, on top of being efficient in various realms of the court, that's the commonality that helps you look at the score and be like, oh, dang, they're not just scoring 50, 60, 70 points a game. They're chipping in 10 rebounds a game. They're chipping in at least 6 to 10 assists along with that stat line. So I think the overall game has changed, which has led to those things or contributed heavily to those things. But the fact they're not just doing it on the scoring perspective, they're also padding the stats in other ways that aid to the scoring. That's what's more scary to me than people just scoring 60, 70 points in a game. You're putting in 20 rebounds to go along with it. You're putting in 10 plus assists to go along with it. Luka Doncic's 60-point triple-double had 60, 21, and 10. Never heard of before, never been done before. But this is the first to do it in this era. And Luka Doncic is not a guy that you speed up. He's not fast. He's not going to kill you in the fast break game. It's all half court. So the way these players are getting it done, not just through scoring, but in other avenues to add to the scoring. I think that's what makes it that much scarier for me when you talk about how much the game has changed. We can't look at someone and just say, oh, they dropped 71 points. Now you're going to start seeing 71 points with 15 rebounds, with 10 assists to go along with it, which is showing that was more of a complete game for someone to have in today's NBA, which would never be possible in previous eras.
Yeah, it couldn't have happened in previous eras of the game, excuse me. It couldn't have happened in previous eras just due to the fact that back when they played in the 90s, the paint was crowded.
Mm-hmm.
And guys just did not shoot outside shots. Everybody was seeking to attack the paint. In an era where space or the importance of space was not as widely emphasized the way that it is now.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to add to your point a little bit on this. Part of the reason why you're seeing this scoring boom, as much as people want to bitch about the defense to keep it a buck, it's because guys are doing this out of necessity. When Donovan Mitchell dropped 71 points and accounted for 99 of Cleveland's points in their come from behind victory against the Bulls, you know who wasn't playing? Evan Mobley was out and Darius Garland was out. They were also down by double digits. I'm pretty sure with the way in which numbers are translated to players behind the bench and in the locker room, someone went to Donovan and said, hey, be aggressive and force the issue. I understand that Ayo Dosunmu is playing incredible defense on you, but we will live and die with whatever you create for us tonight. Because we have no choice. When Luka put up 60, 20, and 10, the first 60-20 triple-double in the history of the league. Second 60-point triple-double in the league ever. James Harden was the first to do it and still the only one to do it in regulation. That's one that a lot of people forget. I actually chronicled that game and I covered that game. But when Luka did that, he was doing that without Maxi Kleber, Josh Green. They needed every single bucket at every critical juncture of the game. Joel Embiid, he's posted 2 games with at least 50 or more this season. When he did, James Harden was out. Tyrese Maxey was also out of one of those games when he scored 50 plus against Charlotte on the second Sunday of December. These games are happening out of necessity, and they're also happening because the usage rate is higher than ever before. And these teams need them to do it. I was at a game when the Bulls played Milwaukee shortly after the holiday. I'm looking at the stat sheet during the half. I'm like, with my pops at the game, I'm like, Giannis got 20 and 10 at the half. And I'm paying attention to the personnel that's off the floor. I said, Drew Holiday's out. I said, not only is Drew Holiday out, but Chris Middleton's out. Brook Lopez isn't really having that great of a night shooting from the field. Bobby Portis is the only player that's really taking advantage of the driving kicks in which Giannis is creating. Giannis gonna have to score at least 50 for them to win. And I remember I told my father, I said, he's damn sure gonna score 40 tonight. That's an automatic. You know, when you go into the arena, if you really follow the game and you analyze the game and you watch the game, what to expect based on who's out there and who's not out there. It's just like Stacey King always says, if you listen to Bulls broadcast on NBC Sports Chicago, know your personnel. And when you see the personnel on the floor and those stars don't have their co-stars or sidekicks doing what they're supposed to be doing, or they're inactive at given night, yeah, 50-piece can happen, especially when the coach is going to be playing you 40 plus minutes and needs every basket out of you to go get it. In the game that I saw Giannis in, he had 44, 20, He had 45, 20 plus rebounds, and 7 plus assists. He was like 5 points away from 50. You knew he was going for it. You knew he was going for it because he had no choice to, albeit in a loss. It was DeMar went right back at him and had 42 of his own. So, when I look at the scoring boom, a lot of this is happening out of necessity as much as it's happening off of the pure talent in the wizardry that we're witnessing in the league. Like, these guys got YouTube now. These 8-year-olds have YouTube and they can study a variety of eras and many moves from the 80s onward. We should be scared of what's coming in the next 10 to 20 years. If you're scared now, imagine what's going to happen when these other young kids come up who have had the pleasure of watching Kyrie Irving and LeBron James and John Morant and Luka Doncic. They was yay high.
You can't forget Kobe, though. Kobe set that trend.
Kobe as well. No disrespect, because what Donovan did, he scored the most points in the NBA in a single game since Kobe's 81 back in 2006. Can't forget about that.
And like you said, it was out of necessity too.
Yeah. Because the personnel that he had on the floor with him. But I gotta ask you real quick, because there's so many current commentators around the league saying that defense hasn't been played at a high level. And that's the main reason behind what we're seeing as of late in regards to these scoring explosions. I understand that the hand check is no longer upon us in this current age of basketball. But with all of this that you're witnessing, do you believe that the game has become watered down?
Oh man. I'll say this. I think the league got a little soft. It's not just a hand check. It's some of these refs are taking matters in their own hands and calling whatever fouls they want to call. That, quite frankly, when you look at them, it's like, they're not really fouls, bro. Like, they're not really fouls. One little touch, and oh my gosh, foul. Like, the era has as we get closer to moving eras moving forward, each era has gotten lighter when it comes to what you can do defensively to stop your opponents. As they took away a lot of the physicality out of the game, you can barely trash talk now. One wrong word or one wrong look can get you technical fouls. Wallace got technical fouls for just looking at a ref. Like, the league has gotten so soft, and they have allowed the NBA refs to take so much matters into their own hands now that they are affecting in a lot of ways how you can stop offenses, because the NBA is that much more offensively driven. So I think some of it is NBA players and teams not just giving a care at times about defense, because it's such an offensively driven league that they're like, forget it. It's become shootouts. So we'll just do shootout games. I think some of that does play, but I also think at the same time, knowing that these refs can take matters in their own hands whenever they want, and you can barely play defense the way you probably need to in a lot of ways to eliminate the scoring outbursts that a lot of these teams and players are having. It's like, what can you do? What else can you do? You can't do much more. So I think that plays a role in a lot of ways too with these refs, because if refs allow you to become physical, 9 times out of 10, it'll increase the chances of you having a better, being able to manage guarding the best players on the floor. Now, I'm not saying you're going to automatically stop them, because they're elite for a reason.
Exactly.
What I am saying is you at least increase the chance of managing and monitoring how you can better defend them, to at least increase the chance of not getting blown out or willingly giving the person 50 plus a game. Versus nowadays, where you can't even touch a person without hearing a whistle being blown. You can't even look at a person wrong without having a whistle being blown. And sometimes don't let it get to the last 2 minutes, because depending on the ref, good luck. So it's a lot of, I think refs play a lot more of a key role now than they did previously in previous years and eras. And the fact that they know they can dictate and manage a game whenever they want, that kind of hurts teams that are known for being super physical, like the Detroit Pistons of their eras. At one point with the like Tibbs teams, defensive teams, with the Bulls, with the Knicks, those defensive teams where you're in for a long night. Yeah, it's not a lot of those anymore because of the fact that I think refs really manage and call the games.
You could even add the Detroit Pistons from the mid-2000s during the Larry Brown era in that mix as well, with Chauncey Billups and Big Ben. If they play this way, the way that they currently play in this era, rather, man, they definitely would have had a lot of gripes with the refs, because you can't touch. Freedom of movement is more stressed now than ever before. But one thing I will say, and I want fans to take into account that have gripes with officiating, not trying to make an excuse for the league, but this is just real facts. A lot of these officials are new.
Yeah.
Like the officials that we grew up with, the Joe Crawfords, the Hugh Evans, the Dick Bavettas of the world.
Yeah.
Gone.
Yeah.
And they actually knew how not to let a game get out of hand. And even though Joe was quick to tech you, tee you up out of a game, you could at least talk with him depending on your approach from time to time, depending on the night. If he wasn't in no takeoff move. Dick Bavetta, you definitely could. But yeah, you got a lot of new officials, man, who really don't, in my opinion, have a true familiarity with calling professional basketball games, and it shows. And it's getting to a point where refs are missing so many calls, or just letting guys get the benefit of the doubt, to where you're gonna start seeing a lot of these guys get to the free throw line in record numbers. Like I visit Giannis in the game I saw him. He missed like 6 free throws, bro. He had to have attempted at least over 15 free throws in that game. If he made at least 5 or 6 of them, he would have had 50. That was the only thing that prevented him from getting a 50 ball against the Bulls that night. Straight up. So with that said, I get what you're saying about the officiating, and it's a league-wide problem. And I think that plays a role in what you're currently witnessing with a lot of this scoring boom across the association as we know it. But I want to segue the show along from discussing the league's current scoring surge to talking about the Chicago Bulls, who since our previous recording has managed to capture wins in 7 out of their last 11 games since we last had the pleasure of speaking with one another prior to the holidays, one of which came in a comeback effort against their Central Division foe in the Milwaukee Bucks at home. The Bulls found a way to go about withstanding a huge 45-point, 22 rebound, and 7 assist night, courtesy of the Greek freak known as Giannis, led behind 42 points from DeMar DeRozan to pull out a 6-point win in OT just days prior to the start of the new year, including another victory that will prove to be the nail in the coffin to the longest winning streak in the NBA to date this year, defeating the Brooklyn Nets by 9 last week as Brooklyn pulled into the madhouse on Madison, having won a total of 12 straight games, which the Bulls will follow up by taking down the Sixers on the road in Philly prior to coming back into the city to defeat the Utah Jazz en route to posting a 3-1 record over a 4-game stretch last week. And in spite of garnering those victories against the 2 top upper echelon squads and boasting a 6-2 record against the top 3 seeded teams out east, Bulls still find themselves in the play-in picture, sitting 10th in the standings as we are recording this episode after recently dropping a game against the Celtics for the first time this year in their final meeting of the regular season in Boston. DeMar DeRozan exited the game in the middle of the third after slipping to the floor while attempting to drive en route to the rim against the C's with a right quad strain and did not return to the contest. DeRozan told Bulls insider and our good friend KC Johnson of NBC Sports Chicago that he couldn't move the way he wanted and plans to receive treatment around the clock, in addition to also admitting he's been playing through some soreness for this quad the past 8 games. DeRozan declared his status is day-to-day. Devontae Green, who's missed the last 5 games with knee soreness, is also set to undergo arthroscopic debridement of his right knee. As the team announced this hours prior to us recording, it's going to be reevaluated within the next couple of weeks. Got to get straight to it. What do you make of the injuries to DeRozan and Green during this stretch? Me and you had the pleasure of linking up at a Bulls game prior to the new year when they were taking on the Cleveland Cavaliers, talking about it amongst ourselves in private channels. What does this mean to the Bulls, man? Should DeRozan as well as Green have to miss extended time for a team that's been playing so well as of late and finally showing some resolve that we've been looking for?
This means 2 people need to show up. Ayo Dosunmu and Patrick Williams. Those 2 young guys need to step up now. Because if honestly, when we talk about missing DeMar, this can be a blessing in disguise for the Bulls. Because now you give Zach LaVine the freedom to roam and do what he loves to do. If obviously, I'm sure you've noticed, the dude dropped 104 points in the last 3 games. He's averaging 35, 56 from the field, 55 from 3, along with 5 assists, which shows that Zach's all-around overall game is more than just scoring. He's playmaking. He's creating for others, which is what I expected, and we've talked about how we expected Zach LaVine to take his game to the next level. That's how the Bulls are going to win. But we all knew the problem was he couldn't do that when DeMar DeRozan always had the ball in his hands. Now that DeMar DeRozan is out, Zach LaVine emerges as the number 1 option, which, according to the recent play that he's had and the Bulls' winning streak, shows that the Bulls actually need to make Zach LaVine the option to go through outside of Vucevic. So now you actually have a chance to do that. If DeMar DeRozan is not playing these next upcoming games, you can see what that looks like. And so I expect Zach LaVine to be the Zach LaVine we know he's capable of being, along with Vooch. But 25 points out of your lineup, Ayo and Patrick Williams got to make up for that. Because when we know Ayo can step up when necessary. When Ayo gets in the groove, especially offensively, combined with his defense, Ayo's impact is that much greater. We know that. But Patrick Williams, you're the number 4 guy on this roster in the starting lineup. I know it's difficult to get your scoring opportunities considering that you're playing with 3 all-stars, but one of them's down. This is your best opportunity to step up now. You got a chance to go crazy on the offensive end now, especially when you have someone in Zach LaVine who has now proven that he can not only score, but facilitate and get you where you need to be so that way you can score. Patrick Williams, it's a prime opportunity for him to just take that next level and to show everyone, especially Chicago fans in general, you could be the consistent go-to option as the number 4 player on this option on this offense, which Patrick Williams has struggled to do this year. He has a lot of great moments, but there's a lot of moments where you're like, dang, he's still in that rookie phase. So you gotta, this is a good opportunity for him to potentially show us what he's really capable of doing consistently while DeMar DeRozan is out. But on top of that too, guys like Kobe White got to step up. That bench got to come through too. And for Kobe White, this is great for him because he's not only playing well this season off the bench and being a good electrifying shooter for them, but he's been playing in crunch time moments down the stretch too, which is going to be key for him considering that this is his last chance and there's no guarantee he's coming back next year. So players just got to step up. But it starts with Ayo and Pat Williams, who we know are the top 2 young guys on the scene that's going to get the most experience. They're going to get the most playing time. Them 2 have to step up, especially with Javonte Green being out defensively, to help merge and smoothen out that perimeter defense. They could do that while giving in each at least 10 to 15 points a game. That'll help keep this Bulls team afloat. But I expect Zach LaVine to continue to play the way that he's been playing, along with Vooch, and that's up to those young guys to step up. Next man up mentality. And as long as the Bulls do that, they should be all right. Now I said should because we know the Bulls. You never know what you're gonna get every given night. But long as those two young guys play well defensively, as well as score at least 10 to 15 offensively, Bulls should be just fine.
Interesting you bring up Pat Williams. Had a big time game against Brooklyn and was really the driving force behind that 9-point win. Got the numbers right in front of me. I had the pleasure of being at that game. Had 22, 6 for 8 shooting from the floor, 3 for 4 shooting from beyond the arc to go alongside of 7 rebounds and played some solid defense, might I add, on Kevin Durant, in spite of him exploding for 44 points of his own, which was a game best, but not enough for the Nets to continue on with their winning streak. I think Patrick Williams has shown some signs of promise lately. I got to give it to him. You know, he's put up double figures in 4 out of his last 5 outings. Definitely needs to build and show that he can do that more consistently, but he seems like he's in the process of doing that. On top of that, he's also hit some big time buckets, specifically from beyond the arc, late in games in the fourth quarter, which is normally not what we have seen from Pat thus far in his career. That's a positive sign. So I'm seeing the growth a little bit from him. Io, he's been playing fairly well, minus a few hiccups here and there, you know, with basic things as young players have. I think he's been fine. Kobe White is definitely a guy that's going to have to step up off of the bench. We're talking about a guy who, yes, he has tightened up his handle. He has played well as of late and been key defensively in ways that I did not expect for him to be as of late as well. I have to give him his flowers and his appreciation for stepping up on that end of the floor when he was oftentimes ostracized for it, and rightfully so, because of the effort in which he exhibited on that end from night to night. But I think this is a tough blow because you're asking a team that has such a thin margin for error and has to be pretty much perfect in order to win each and every night against the best of the best to not miss a beat. And Zach LaVine, I do believe, is more than capable of helping the Bulls weather the storm in the absence of DeRozan, specifically for the reasons which you allude to. He's shooting lights out from beyond the arc over his last 10 games, shooting over 50% from the field in his last 10 outings. And on top of that, he's attacking the bucket at a rate in which we have yet to see him do ever since coming off of the knee injury this past summer, or knee surgery, might I add. So I'm glad to see the improved play from Zach LaVine. I think that will help them. He played a pivotal role in them trying to come from behind 8 against Boston when DeMar went out. And I liked it that I got a chance and other Bulls fans got a chance to see that, which is what you want to see if you're a Bulls fan and you have aspirations seeing this team back in the playoffs for the second straight year. But yeah, this is going to be a tough one because DeMar, man, he's a steady presence. You know, when the offense breaks down, you could go to him in that half court. But one thing I do like about it is, should he have to miss an extended period of time, as you said, other guys got to step up, and the show can't stop. Mm-hmm. And you got to find a way to make a way out of no way if you're Billy Donovan and company, especially when you've made a ton of progress over the last couple of weeks following the loss to Minnesota. And guys are finally starting to show some resolve. I do agree with you, though. Playing through Vucevic in the post is typically where the Bulls have been able to find some successes of late. They could keep doing that. And, you know, they might be able to steal some games here and there. Hopefully DeRozan doesn't miss a lot of time. And he's the type of guy I wouldn't expect to, because like he said himself, he typically don't take himself out of games, no way. And you know it had to be something serious in order for him to do that. But he's trying to receive treatment around the clock, so we don't really know what his status is for the foreseeable future just yet.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting dynamic as far as what the Bulls are going to be capable of doing, especially since, according to our guy Drew Stevens, he tweeted recently that the Bulls now have technically the easiest schedule moving forward. So if that is the case, there should be a lot of games on there that, respectfully, the Bulls should win. But the caveat to that, the Bulls play down to their competition quite often.
Yeah.
And if you're talking about playing a lot of teams that are at 500 or below 500, it can really go two ways. It can be great, or it can be so diabolically bad because we don't know what you're going to get from the Bulls. Because with their inconsistency still being shown. As of late, they've been playing great. And there's been some games and they just slipped through the crack. They just couldn't get the job done. However, can that same play translate for the next at least 14 games leading up to the trade deadline and All-Star weekend? For them to play at such a high level where they can still creep up in some cases, because the Eastern Conference standings are still pretty tight. If they go on a winning streak and these other teams slip, they can see themselves in that 8 to 6 range. They really want to push it. But can the game translate from what they played recently, even with DeMar playing the level he's been playing? Can it translate for other guys to step up and fill in that void to maintain throughout the rest of the games going into All-Star break and trade deadline? We don't know the answer to that. And quite honestly, we can't even give you a confident answer. However, if we say it does translate over, there's a good chance they can win those games, which is something that we couldn't say earlier this season. So that's just something we just got to see and figure out as we watch the rest of these upcoming games. And hopefully DeMar doesn't miss a lot of time, which, like you said, I don't expect him to miss a lot of time either. But this is going to be another battle test for the Bulls, considering that, to me, even though DeMar is a huge impact, losing Javonte Green on that defensive end and how he flows offensively with guys like DeMar, who doesn't need the ball, that's going to be the thing that's going to hit them the most. And I hope the rest of the guys are prepared to fill in that void.
No doubt about it. I want to push things along from the action in the city of Wynn to what's going down further east by the borough in Brooklyn, where a Nets squad who has captured wins in 18 of their last 20 outings received some unfortunate news regarding arguably their most shining star. According to ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski, Woj, as you know him, Kevin Durant is expected to be sidelined for the next month after being diagnosed with an isolated MCL sprain of his right knee and is set to be reevaluated within 2 weeks. However, there is optimism within Brooklyn's camp that this is a less severe injury compared to the previous MCL sprain in which Kevin Durant suffered in his left knee just a year ago. As Woj reported that the team expects him to miss no more than 4 weeks of action this time around compared to the 6 weeks he set out a season ago. Durant suffered the following injury in the third quarter of the Nets' 102-101 win against the Heat in Miami to close out last week. Brooklyn posted a 5-12 record during the 17 games in which Durant had to sit out and miss time with a sprained MCL a season ago. Although one could argue that the state of the Nets was in a far different place compared to now, the organization recently constructed their best 20-game stretch ever in franchise history. I'm going to just put it like this to you, Josh. My expectations for Brooklyn moving forward in the wake of KD's recent setback is to just hold the ship at bay. Continue what's got you there. Jacques Vaughn has done a hell of a job of getting this group buy-in. They're playing for one another on both ends of the floor. Defensively, they are communicating at a level that I never saw them do during the Steve Nash regime. And you can tell that he's gotten everybody on his team interconnected. If Kyrie Irving can find a way to not only get his, which we know he's gonna do on any given night, whether he's out there as a solo act or with KD or or what have you. We know he's gonna do that, but if he can find a way to get others involved, such as Seth Curry, and letting Ben Simmons know, hey, as soon as you get that rebound, push it up the floor. Let's get to drive again. If he could do that, I think Brooklyn will be fine. This is a team that has a stronger bench compared to a season ago when KD suffered the same injury. They don't have any drama with the James Harden cloud anymore. A lot of us, specifically me and you, we know that one of the main reasons why Harden left Brooklyn was because of the fact that he wasn't trying to shoulder a heavy offensive load when KD went down. And with the status of Kyrie Irving up in the air at that time, due to the vaccine and whatnot being a part-time role player, he didn't want no part of that. But now with Kyrie in the fold full-time, I think this team should be fine. And one thing that they have that is a positive, they only got 6 games over the course of 16 days. So they're going to have a bunch of practice time to get ingrained one another and get right. And if they're able to do that, I think they'd be fine. TJ Warren's another guy that can step up for him as well. But what's your expectations for Brooklyn moving forward in the wake of KD's recent setback, man?
Everything you just said. Hold on to fort. It's not like your fearless leader's not coming back at all this season. He's planning to come back most likely before All-Star break. So as long as things continue to go smooth with that, shoot, hold on to fort. Kyrie's going to be able to have a chance to lead, and I think he'll lead differently now because of everything he's gone throughout these past 10 years, especially since his Boston days. He's learned. I think he's learned a lot to a point where he'll be able to lead differently as the number one guy now, until Kevin Durant comes back. And you mentioned all the players that can definitely step up. I'm looking at Ben Simmons. Because Ben Simmons, you got some time to get acquainted now. You've been playing consistently. You've been playing in different roles that have been great, especially defensively.
Yeah.
For this team, to now be the second best team in the Eastern Conference. But we know you got another gear in the tank because you showed it to us prior to your recent mishaps with Philadelphia, and now you coming to Brooklyn. So because you can do that, I don't even need you to go drop me 20 a game like you did in the way that you used to. You can just give me 15. You just give me 15 smooth, and half of that can be in transition. As long as you're able to do that, I'm good. I'm good with that. And I think he is capable of doing that. So, yeah, Joe Harris will show up. The TJ Warrens. I expect Royce O'Neal to be better as the recent compared to the previous stretch he was on. He's been on shooting the ball. Seth Curry is going to continue to do his thing. I expect all that to happen just like you do. But for me, Ben Simmons is the X factor about how much is this team going to sink. And I don't think they'll sink too bad. Quite frankly, I think they'll stay afloat. However, it's going to be a lot of it's going to be on Ben Simmons. As long as Ben Simmons can play his role effectively to a point where even adding more responsibility from an offensive perspective wouldn't be too much of a problem, Brooklyn will stay afloat. And that's what I expect out of the Nets, especially Ben Simmons.
I'm looking at the Nets schedule over the next 10 games. They start out with the Celtics and Thunder at home without KD, followed by a 5-game road trip out west, where they will take on the Spurs, Suns, Jazz, and the Warriors, followed by concluding the road trip coming back east to play against Philadelphia, with 3 other games to close out the month of January at home against the Pistons, the Knicks, and the Lakers, respectively. They only stand a game and a half back behind the Celtics for the top seed in the East as of this recording. And they take the floor against the reigning conference champions later on this week in front of a national audience on TNT. I think what you said is spot on. Ben Simmons, yeah, he don't have to give them mega numbers, but if he could give them 15 with 10 and 5, and he's attacking the rim, that's a plus. Because when Ben Simmons was at the peak of his power in Philadelphia, he was driving to the rim at least 10 times a night. A couple years ago, during his last year in Philly, I want to say he was driving to the rim about 5 times per night. This year it's at 3. And he's been able to get away with his offensive deficiencies a little bit because he's had KD hiding him a little bit with his ability to score and shoot it from anywhere on the floor, as well as Kyrie Irving. But he's given him so much on the defensive end. Now, not only do I need you to give me something on the defensive end, but you're rebounding, but as soon as you rebound, I need you to push up the paint. I need you to drive and attack. Don't be afraid to get to the free throw line. If you miss, we live with it, but at least setting the tone. And that's what Ben is going to have to do. I expect him to do it. I think it's time for him to do it. And this could really serve as an important stretch for Kyrie Irving in his career as he seeks to garner his next big payday. He has every incentive to do it the last year of his contract. But if I'm Jock Vaughn or Kyrie Irving or anybody in that locker room, I'm pumping Ben Simmons up every game over the next month and counting like, hey, bro, show me that guy that we got a chance to see when he was in Philadelphia. And with the personnel that you have, even if they seek the W, you can kick it out to the Joe Harrisons and the Seth Currys of the world, and they'll make a defense pay on a night when they hot, including Royce O'Neal, who had a dreadful game here and shot like 0 for 9 in that loss to the Bulls, where if he made at least 3 of those triples that he got some good looks. It could have been a different game. So I think Brooklyn, if they could just manage to post like a 6-4 or 7-3 record through these next 10 games, I think they'll take it.
Most definitely. Anything that includes Ben Simmons equating to those 7-3 or 6-4 records is a plus. They'll take that, especially since, like you said, they're only a game and a half from the Celtics as the number 1 team in the East. The fact that they even came this far is already a plus. But this will be the icing on the cake to really test and in a lot of ways prepare them for what the future really can look like. Because obviously in the future you're going to have a healthier Kevin Durant, prayerfully or hopefully. You're going to have a healthy Kyrie Irving going through this thing. But if the Nets can figure out how to play without Kevin Durant now, with the Ben Simmons having the mentality and the growth that we know he is capable of doing, imagine having that Ben Simmons plugged in with a healthy KD and Kyrie come playoff time. That's going to be a different beast that a lot of the league may not be prepared for. So this is a good test for Brooklyn even now to get this out the way. To be like, all right, Ben, we ain't got one of our leaders. If you can step up in this way, we're going to need you to play that way moving forward, even with him on the roster, because we know what he's capable of doing, but whatever you bring in, that's going to be the icing on the cake to get to where we're trying to go.
Indeed. Kevin Durant was a guy who was regarded by many as someone who was slowly beginning to climb atop of their MVP power rankings prior to his injury. I know prior to the season that you were riding with Zion Williamson of the New Orleans Pelicans to take home the award. In a year where you can say that one's rankings are likely to flip-flop every single week due to all of the highlight level performances that we've seen from guys in the running thus far. Who are your top 5 guys real quick before we move on to the next segment as we stand in the race for the MVP award today, Josh?
Man.
It's real quick.
Yeah, it's real. I'm just going to just name out 5 guys, no particular order.
Okay.
But right now, I'm going with Zion still.
All right.
KD, Jay Tatum, Jokic, and Giannis. Yes, I left Luka off. And the only reason why I left Luka off, because even though Dallas has improved dramatically as of recent, now sitting at 4th in the Western Conference, I need to see how long this thing continues to ride out. The narrative hasn't changed too much for me. He's coming off a year where last year he went to the Western Conference Finals. That's not to me. To me, we know what Luka can do moving forward. I want to see him do that with the Mavericks winning all throughout the season to get him that much high of a pedestal. But Zion's still going to be on top for me. The only reason why, the Pelicans are still sitting third in the Western Conference. You can't tell me that dramatic of a change with the numbers he's putting in and the impact that he's putting in, knowing that last season the Pelicans finished as a part of the play-in teams without Zion on the court. With them playing now, and they're sitting third in the Western Conference, you could have not predicted that. And they're thriving. They're still going. Zion's about to be an all-star this year. That to me is when you talk about the definition of an MVP, the impact of the game while the team is winning. I gotta go with Zion as one of my top guys doing that. And of course, you got KD and Jason Tatum who are doing well, and especially what KD's doing, bringing Brooklyn from play-in tournament to number 2 in the Eastern Conference. That drastic change is incredible too. But I'm not, as much as Jokic is winning too, has won the past 2 MVPs. He got another case this year too, just because Denver is sitting number 1 in the West. Who would have thought Denver would be number 1 in the West right now with the numbers he's putting up? So it's hard to miss these guys. Especially with the elite numbers that they're putting up, man. But I'm still rolling with Zion. I'm still rolling with Zion as my number 1 lead right now, just simply because without Zion on that Pelicans team, they're not number 1. They're not sitting top 3 in the Western Conference, and not just sitting top 3, but thriving throughout the Western Conference. That doesn't happen without Zion Williamson playing the way that he's been playing.
I commend you for your loyalty with Zion. I really do. He was a guy at one point, he damn sure would have been on the top 5 on my list. I feel bad leaving him off when you make that case. I got nothing but love for Zion, but I'm just going to say it real quickly in the order in which I have him. Number 5, Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Milwaukee Bucks. He could easily be in the top 3. I think we don't really appreciate too much anymore what he's been able to do since he captured back-to-back MVPs 2 seasons ago. But man, he got Milwaukee among the creme de la creme in the East still, and is managing to do it without Chris Middleton in the fold, without Drew Holiday on certain nights, who hasn't always been there or been able to go do the health reasons and purposes. So I got to give him props. Number 4, this is a tough guy to have in number 4. I know some people got him in the top 3. It's a reigning MVP, Nikola Jokic. As you said, you really can't argue against the numbers. He's got Denver sitting at the top of the West. Could easily make a case for him being the first player since Larry Bird to capture 3 straight MVPs. I just don't know how you do that in this day and age where so many people fail to really take historic things in the full context. But I still got him in there nonetheless. Number 3, I got Luka Doncic in. I couldn't leave him off personally. I understand that they didn't perform up to par prior to the holidays, but the run that this man has gone on to close out the year of 2022 and coming into 2023, putting up, as I have the numbers here in front of me, the man's putting up 32, 10, 7, shooting 37% from the field. Not even his best numbers, but he's still finding a way to do it. And that's scary. And we talked about the 60, 21, and 10 in which he put up against the Knicks in that overtime win, which had to come back from 9 points down in the final 30 seconds just to force overtime. We ain't even talk about the 51, 9, and 6 that he dropped on San Antonio on New Year's Eve. Yep. I just got to give credit when it's due. And if it wasn't for the years in which Jason Tatum and Kevin Durant have had, I think you would have had to make the case that he's easily the front runner for the MVP award. But my top 2 guys, Kevin Durant, number 2, I was ready to elevate him over Jason Tatum prior to the injury. And I still got him number 2 right now because of where he has his Nets team with all the stuff that's going on 2-5 through their first 7 games. Steve Nash out. Is there trouble in Brooklyn? Jock Vaughn, who I give a ton of credit to, turning it around, but he wouldn't have been able to do it without the easy money sniper, man. He's been holding it down. And then last but not least, Jason Tatum. Man's on a mission. Got the team with the best record in basketball, putting up 30 plus, one of the 5 guys to put that up. Only Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Luka Doncic, Joel Embiid, and Giannis can say that. I just got to give him the credit. I still think he's the MVP front runner, even though some people would move him to number 2 on their list. But I want to move the show forward from our NBA MVP conversation to discuss a team who just a couple of years ago stood just within 2 wins of capturing the Larry O'Brien Trophy, who now finds themselves within the playing realm of the West playoff picture after garnering the best record in the game just last season. And that's the Phoenix Suns, who find themselves now sitting 8th in the playing picture out west, and they were sitting 4th overall in the West with a 19-13 record through 32 games. In spite of being without the services of DeAndre Ayton and Chris Paul through various stretches during the early portions of the season, the last time that we met up and recorded together. But man, they got a lot of injuries that's happened. Cam Johnson's yet to be cleared to take part in full contact drills. DeAndre Ayton's been ruled out of commission with an ankle injury prior to tip-off against the Golden State Warriors. Phoenix playing without 4 members of their starting 5 to begin the new year, with Chris Paul and Devin Booker both currently sidelined. We know the Jay Crowder situation. He's looking for a new team to play for, hasn't been able to find one yet. What happens during the trade deadline with him, you never know, but you expect him to be moved. How concerned do you think Suns general manager James Jones should be, man, down in the desert, bro? I think he got a lot of reasons to be concerned. This team, they're not as deep as they thought they were. And when you add on to the fact that Campaign out, Landry Shamet out, seems like they're in a state of trouble.
Yeah, they're in a state of trouble because, I'll be honest with you, they was probably in a state of trouble since the offseason. And the real reason why is because I think there's some still beef going on between DeAndre Ayton and that front office. I think some things are not fully resolved from that scar that Phoenix left on him when they didn't give him the type of deal he wanted. So I think some of that still plays a fact. I still think that also too, they're so reliant on I don't want to say elderly, but an older Chris Paul. His body's wearing down on him. This is the most he's probably been injured since his time in Phoenix. Like you said, you also have Devin Booker, who has been hurt. It doesn't help that you got a player that's available that doesn't want to play. And you said, like your other guys, Campaign, Andrew Shannon, those guys are out. I think Cam Johnson really is the biggest piece as to why this team is struggling too. Because that was your best perimeter player, even though Mikal Bridges has grown on, especially offensively, when it comes to creating his own shot. But yeah, this team is not as deep as they thought they were. And with all of the best players being out, you can expect a dip as far as, them winning games and how competitive those games can be based on any given night. They're going to have to make some moves. They have to really start looking at the trade deadline to make some moves, not only to get rid of Jay Crowder, but get back some guys that can ball that are younger. Because if you keep getting older vets from season to season, even though it's great per se to help keep you afloat for this season, if the Suns want to get back into the window of being considered the best of the best in the Western Conference, that thing is closing real quick. And they need to get their act together to remain in that conversation. They can't do it with veteran players that barely have an arm and a leg anymore. You gotta get guys that can ball that are young. And with some of the talent that they do have, on top of getting everybody healthy, they need to start looking at making potential moves to help boost that. Otherwise, they're going to stay right in that playing range. And they might be struggling to get past that first round if they even make it in the play-in tournament.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm looking at Phoenix right now. I see a wounded Duck, and it doesn't look good. And Chris Paul, that's my guy. Love him to death. Was a hell of a presence in Houston besides James Harden when I covered him. But like you said, he's not getting no younger. And it's times where you look at him coming off those pick and rolls where it's like he's struggling just to get a shot up. And sometimes he's passing it up because he really don't even want to take it. And that's noticeable, man. That's very noticeable. Mikal Bridges has put together a solid year. I think he's done a great job when it comes to making plays as a facilitator when called upon. He really hasn't had a choice, but he's grown in that area so much. He was one of the best all ball players in the league. Now I think we're starting to see him slowly evolve into becoming a true version of what one would consider as a two-way player. But with all that said, man, they definitely got to get younger. They got to get younger, and they got to get some depth at the guard spot, and they got to get some depth at the 5 spot. Even if they are to retain DeAndre Ayton, they don't really have a solid backup big.
Yep.
No disrespect to Doc Landale or Bismack Biyombo. Doc Landale's been solid for the most part, but like you said, they got to get younger. And they're gonna have to get some athletes on the wing. And when you playing at the guard, wing, as well as at the center position, man, it leaves a lot to be desired. But I'm gonna move back into the Suns momentarily, and I want to move on to a new segment here on Open Run. As the trade deadline is less than a month away, several teams will be looking to either buy or sell high on the players to be involved. Welcome to part 1 of Buyers and Sellers, a series in which me and Josh will assess a trio of teams each week over the next few episodes to uncover whether or not we think they're a true buyer or seller on the open market. Want to start off with the Sacramento Kings, 21-18 record, first in the Pacific Division by a game and a half over the Warriors, Clippers, Suns, and Lakers as we speak. They sit 5th overall, as you mentioned earlier, in the West playoff picture. Sacramento currently ranks 4th in offensive rating, 24th in defensive rating, 12-9 record at home, 9-9 on the road, 6 players in double figures. De'Aaron Fox leading the way with 23.8 points to go alongside of 6 dimes a night. Sacramento's man in the middle, Domantas Sabonis, currently averaging a double-double, 18 and 12, to go alongside a team best near 7 dimes. Been a noteworthy season for the 2-time All-Star out of Gonzaga. Sacramento a buyer or are they a seller?
Oh man. I think right now they might sell.
Really?
They might sell because of one person, Harrison Barnes. As much as Harrison Barnes has been great for the Sacramento Kings, I don't know if his time might be ending over there. Okay. With the direction that they're going, as well as the contract that he has with that to go along with that. I want to see if he has another couple of years left on that deal. So that's the case. I expect other contenders to look at Harrison Barnes and be like, maybe we can get him as a fill-in piece to help booster our bench, or maybe become an elusive piece, depending on how their lineups look like. Could be a nice 4 spot, fill in for that 4 spot on the contender. You talk about these teams that had injuries, teams like the Bucks, that had some major injuries. You talk about teams that technically could use an additional 4 spot. Imagine if he actually got the chance to, in his own way, you talk about Tim Hardaway Jr. What if you unload Tim Hardaway Jr. and bring back a Harrison Barnes? That could be a deal that could actually help Dallas, considering you move Christian Wood to that starting spot. Harrison Barnes is a better option coming off the bench than technically you would right now for Tim Hardaway Jr. And you compare Harrison Barnes with a Josh Hardy. So I'm not saying that, those type of teams will make those type of deals per se, but I can see the Kings technically selling just to get rid of one guy to bring back somebody that could be, that can help with where the direction of this team is moving, which is younger, faster, and with experience, more growth, which is what the Kings are showing right now. So I can't see them being sellers. I can't see them being buyers just yet, because if you're buying, that shows me you're trying to get to a deep playoff run with the current state that they're at right now. I think they're just happy with the fact that they playing better than what a lot of teams expected, or even they expected, when it comes to their current state of where they're at in the Western Conference. And they're going to maintain what they have there and look to maybe get rid of a contract that may not be good for them moving forward, so they can have more space in the future to do things, especially maybe becoming one of those key places that, from a free agent perspective, may get somebody that's of a Harrison Barnes caliber level that may want to come over there and ball, knowing that this team has promise now because they're competing in the Western Conference.
If I'm not mistaken, Harrison Barnes is on the last year of his deal. So that might be a move that they seek to make in an effort to get some assets back. You say you find Sacramento to be a seller. I personally think that they're going to be a buyer. Even if they do sell Harrison Barnes. It's like the quote you see on social media with Denzel and Jamie Foxx talking. King's leaving with something. They leaving with something. I'm gonna be straight up honest with you. They leaving with something. And I think if they can find a way to get a wing who they can implement as a small ball five and possibly serve not only to help them stretch the floor, which is what they like to do, is they get up a ton of threes a night, but to defend the opposition's best wing, they be in good shape. One of those guys who fits that criteria is a guy that I think a lot of teams need to be calling about, including the Bulls. PJ Washington. That's a name to look out for. Wouldn't be shocked if they try and get aggressive and make a move for Kyle Kuzma, while also trying to insert Keegan Murray off of the bench in a six-man role. Sacramento's in a good position. They can get a little greedy if they want to. I don't think anybody expected them to be in the thick of the playoff race in the West, let alone atop of the Pacific Division, a division in which the Warriors have dominated, a division in which the Lakers during the Kobe Bryant era dominated. We have not seen the Sacramento Kings this good in a long time.
Yeah.
They got a right to be greedy. If Vivek Ranadive and his front office regime want to spend some money or elevate their team atop of the West standards, this will be the year to go for it. So I'm gonna say that they are buying.
I can definitely see that. It depends on how aggressive they want to be. The Kings are not known to being aggressors when it comes to situations like this. So I don't trust that they will continue to do that. However, if they have that light bulb on their head, that goes off in their head saying, okay, we need to strike now, considering we're doing this well this season in the front in the Western Conference, and we're in the thick of the playoffs at such a high seed. Oh yeah, I go crazy too to see if I can get somebody to help booster this team, especially offensively. I'll definitely be on board for that. And I just don't know if the Kings are that willing to be that aggressive with it, which, quite frankly, it doesn't fit their nature to do so.
It doesn't fit their nature, but one thing I'll say before we move on to the next team in this buyers and sellers segment, they got the longest playoff drought in North American sports right now, if I'm not mistaken. They definitely got it in the NBA. If that's not an incentive to be a buyer, I don't know what is. And they overachieve. And they got that fan base really into it right now.
Yeah.
Golden One Center is one of the toughest places to play in the league. Like they starting new traditions. They lighten up the game after they win games and whatnot. So I think they ready. I think they ready, man. I think they tired of being a laughing stock. And you saw how they was acting on TNT when they whooped Brooklyn a couple months back. Like they ready for the prime time. I think at this period. I think they tired of being talked about in a negative light, and I think they want some shine for once and for all. But I want to move on to the next team, Chicago Bulls, 19-22 record, fourth in the Central Division, 10th overall, and a half a game behind the Atlanta Hawks, ninth in the Eastern Conference play-in picture, 15th in offensive efficiency, 20th in defensive efficiency, 11-9 when playing at the United Center, 8-13 away from the familiar confines. DeMar DeRozan lead the Bulls in scoring with 26 points a night on nearly 51% from the floor through 41 games. Zach LaVine has averaged 28 points and shooting over 50% from the field and 48% from three-point land over his last 10 games. Nikola Vucevic averaging a double-double, leading the team with nearly 11 boards a night. Are the Bulls buyers or sellers? In my opinion, I don't see them wanting to sell. I don't know if they buy high. But I do think when it's all said and done, they're going to be a buyer. It's just a matter of for who and for what.
I agree with that too. Darnell Mayberry, a good friend of ours, he made it known via his recent report on the Athletic that the Bulls most likely are not expected to make any moves, which, quite frankly, isn't surprising because they've been very adamant in emphasizing that they want to see what this core does, which means 9 out of 10, they're not going to make any moves until probably next offseason because they're so pretty much hellbound and that confident in the current core that they have, in the current roster that they have, which I understand, rightfully so, especially on paper, definitely. However, you got 2 guys on your roster that are not locked in long term. DeMar DeRozan got 1 more year left on this deal. Vooch is on the last year of his deal, and there's no guarantee he's coming back.
Yeah.
If you're trying to look at your future and you have no confidence that you're at least getting one of those guys back, especially Vooch, that's an all-star. You can't let go for nothing. You got to see what you can get back for him. And as much as, the Bulls are playing better now with this core lineup, which quite frankly, they started even last year around this time as the top team in the Eastern Conference. We know it can work, but there is a timeline for this current core because no one's locked in long-term outside of Zach LaVine. So with DeMar playing well, Vooch is playing better, you got to see, I'm not saying you automatically trade them, but you at least see what you can get back for those guys. You got to test the market out. And if you can get a good deal for Vooch, who is the most likely the one that has to go, considering you're worried about not getting an all-star caliber player back in the offseason to replace Vooch, I got to see what you can get for him. DeMar DeRozan probably has the highest value right now out of everybody on the team. I would want to see what assets I can get for DeMar DeRozan. Because if Vooch ain't coming back, no disrespect, I don't expect DeMar to come back the year after next season. So you got to see, you got to see what you can get for at least 2 of your 3 main core players, just to see what goes on. And honestly, down the line, depending on how things go, you might got to include trading Zach too. I'm not saying they're going to go into a complete rebuild, but even though you are pretty much confirming and being steadfast as far as your movement with this current roster and how you want to see this roster play out, you'd be naive to not pick up the phone and see what you can get for 2 of your players that are not guaranteed locked in long term. Because that's your core that you're following your future after outside of Zach LaVine. Especially with Vooch not even guaranteed coming back next season. He can walk. So you got to see what you can get back for those type of guys and then at least answer the phone calls to see what's available. You may not pull the trigger, But you got to see at least what's available because time is literally short. And this window as of right now, compared to all the other teams, not just in the Western Conference, but the Eastern Conference, that championship window is nowhere near where the Bulls want it to be right now. And it's pretty much shut if you don't get anybody back to replace the current core you got right now.
Vucevic is definitely public enemy number one on the trading block. If it's anybody in this current core that I see getting moved, it is him. If you have no intentions on signing him, you have to deal him. With that said, don't know what his market is. But we've seen blockbuster trades before involving all-stars. Now, I have no sources on this trade. This is a trade that I'm just crafting up at the top of my head right now. I don't even know how the financials work, but I promise you once I'm done recording the show, I will definitely look it up to see if it can actually happen. It would not shock me if the Bulls were to trade Nikola Vucevic to the Minnesota Timberwolves in exchange for Rudy Gobert.
Oh, Lord.
And the only reason why I say it, the Bulls have a rebounding problem. So bad to where they need help in any area of rebounding in which they can get it. Rudy Gobert can at least do that. I understand his contract ain't the best. His contract leaves a lot to be desired. But he can still do things that do not show up on the stat sheet in which this team can use. It needs their starting five to do. And that's the dirty work. He does it. Now, in order for it to work, I feel Billy would have to open up his playbook more. He's going to have to run some more pick and roll sets. He and Steven Gardner were laughing amongst one another on Twitter, talking about how the Bulls ran some Spain pick and roll sets against Boston back to back. That's something you don't usually see. That's something you don't usually see, but you damn sure got to do it if Rudy Gobert is there. But I feel like they're going to have to make a move like that if they can't find anything better on the market for Vucevic. And the reason why I pose that is think about both situations. Minnesota has the paint clogged up. And as a result, Anthony Edwards ain't been able to really eat and go inside the lane and drive in the paint and get buckets like we saw him doing in the playoffs against Memphis. Cat has been forced to play at the 5, which as a result takes away from the mismatches in which he was able to get it to 4. When you get Vucevic over there, at least you can put Vucevic to 5 and move Cat back to the 4. And he can do his thing. Vuce can step out and shoot. Bulls need a big man that's an enforcer in the paint and ain't just going to allow guys to get beat off backdoor cuts and whatnot. I really think that's what it comes down to. Hate to be the bearer of bad news to the Bulls fans, but that could be a trade that actually happened.
I'm a real briefly give one more option because I'm sorry. If you're thinking about Rudy Gobert, it's just it's nauseating.
It's not option one.
I just couldn't do it.
It's not option one.
I couldn't do it, but I gotta go with the one option that, although I don't think they will pull the trigger, they might listen, and that is the Phoenix Suns. Give me DeAndre Ayton. Bring DeAndre Ayton over here.
That's the dream offer. I've been talking about that offer the last several months with one of my guys.
Bring DeAndre Ayton over here. Give him a new home. We'll take him. Him in a pick and roll and a stretch pick and roll with Zach LaVine. Now you're talking real business. It can work with Vooch, but knowing that young core can be locked in long term, come on, let's make it happen. I don't know if Jerry is that willing to go over the luxury tax or anything like that. because we all know Jerry can be a little cheap. However, if he is this go around and the Bulls really do have the green light from upper management, which they have said before the season, they have had the green light to do whatever it takes necessary, which includes money, to make the moves they need to make the Bulls the best contending team, or increase the chance to be the best contending team in the East. I go over the luxury tax to get DeAndre Ayton over here. I'll do it.
Another move I would consider too. That's a move I thought about, but I think if you get DeAndre Ayton, that's gonna cost you a pick. That's gonna cost you a pick, and that might cost you another player. But Vucevic, a deal I would consider. Charlotte's in need of a big man or a veteran big man. Maybe you could trade Nikola Vucevic to Charlotte for a half-season rental in order to take back Gordon Hayward, who has some team control for half of this season as well as next year, going into the last year of his deal, I believe. And then maybe PJ Washington, and you see where that connects you. Like I said, PJ Washington would be a guy, if I was the Bulls, I would definitely inquire about or make a call for. So those are some trades, for those that's taking. Because I don't really see Vucevic staying here unless he has made a guarantee in good faith that no matter what happens, he's re-signing with the Bulls. I mean, I know he just bought a property in Lincoln Park prior to the start of the season. That remains to be seen, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I want to move forward to the last team for part one of buyers and sellers. The Phoenix Suns, 20-21 record, 4th in the Pacific Division, sit 8th in the Western Conference play-in picture, 8th in offensive efficiency, 12th in defensive efficiency, 14-7 at home, 6-14 away. Devin Booker was in the midst of a hallmark season, as you know, prior to suffering a groin injury, averaging a career best near 28 a game, all the while being within the thick of the NBA MVP discussion early on. Kyle Bridges and DeAndre Ayton have been key pillars for Phoenix this year as well. Bridges averaging a career high 15 points a night as it is recorded with 3.2 dimes a game. He's been called upon to make plays with the rock in his hands more often than previous years, with Booker and CP3 having missed a combined 27 games this year. Is Phoenix a buyer or seller?
They need to buy everything that they can. At this point, you need to buy everything. Buy the whole shelf. I don't care. Buy the whole shelf out the store. Because I'm watching, as we're recording this podcast right now, the Phoenix Suns are playing the Golden State Warriors. Yes, they're beating the Golden State Warriors right now by a nice margin. Okay, that's great. But I'm still looking at them. They ain't got no backup point guard outside of campaign.
Yep.
Their wing depth is very limited because you don't without Cam Johnson, and you're basically solely relying on Mikal Bridges because you're not going to have Jay Crowder. You mentioned it before. They have no big man help. DeAndre Ayton now, they screwed. You better find, if it's not major trades, it better be some type of minor trades that helps boost this depth on this bench. Because if the Suns starting lineup cannot stay healthy, they will not be as competitive as they need to be to maintain and improve their chances of getting out of the A spot where they at currently in the West. And let alone, that's just the play-in. Who knows if they're running into a Denver or potentially a New Orleans in the first round. That's scary for them. So I will be buying as much as I can I don't care if it's going to the store to get the ramen noodles. Buy all the ramen noodles you can get to boost up that bench with the little money you got. So that way you don't starve. Because if you starve, you're going to starve to death in the Western Conference right now. Especially with the way these young teams are thriving. Oh no, if you want to get back to the top, you got to be that aggressive. You got to make $1 stretch with buying 30-cent noodles. Now, that's what you're going to have to do. And I think Phoenix has a chance to do that, especially if they're able to acquire certain assets from this Jay Crowder deal. However, James Jones got a lot on his plate to figure that out, man. He got a lot on his plate to figure that out, and I'm glad I'm not in that seat because I don't know how you can improve this roster, knowing that knowing that you're so cap heavy right now because of your deals with Devin Booker and Mikal Bridges and DeAndre Ayton and Chris Paul, and out of all those 4 players I just mentioned, none of them are on the court except for one.
Mikal, the ultimate Iron Man, might I add. I don't believe he's missed a game in his career to date.
Right.
Yeah, man, and that's saying something in this era where so many guys on a night-to-night basis aren't able to suit up for various reasons or are being advised by management and personnel on a team not to do it. But yeah, Phoenix is a buyer. Phoenix is a buyer. And the reason why I think Phoenix is a buyer is because they know that they have to move Jay Crowder sooner rather than later. The clock is ticking. I don't know where the best deal may come from, but it's going to be a market to watch. It's going to be a market to watch. I wouldn't be surprised if Sacramento would be interested in doing a deal with Phoenix to get Jay Crowder because they need some toughness and a reinforcement on their wing out there. I just don't know if Richaun Holmes alone is an attractive enough piece for them, but he could help them. You know, he gives them energy in the pick and roll game, but they would need a guard as a result of that too. They definitely got to get a backup guard, man. They do. You got to have some Chris Paul insurance. I really wish that they would have been able to find a way to close out a deal with the Rockets for Eric Gordon when they had the chance. That was always the guy that I felt like was the missing piece to Phoenix's teams over these last couple of years. But with that said, I mean, I think they are a buyer. They're going to be linked to damn near everybody. And one thing you brought up that we got to keep in mind, you said they don't want to run into a team like New Orleans in round one of the playoffs. Yeah, you're right. Because you know why? New Orleans ain't forgot what happened last year. We saw these matchups during the regular season between Phoenix and New Orleans. A lot of smack talk.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of trash talking being done between both sides. I think the Pelicans going to be out for blood playing against the Suns, especially if they have home court advantage this time around.
Not to mention, Zion is ready this year. He wasn't there last year. Zion is ready this year.
Hopefully so. If he stay healthy, him and Brandon Ingram, I think that's the only thing that's holding New Orleans back to keep it a buck with you is not having their big three on the floor all together at the same time. They got to get those guys healthy by All-Star break and try and figure out a way to gel quickly to go on a run because they have so much potential. But as we get to the closing segments of this show, gotta ask you, Josh, what's your top games to watch this upcoming week?
We just got done talking about one of those teams, the New Orleans Pelicans. Tomorrow, Wednesday, they are playing the Boston Celtics in the TD Garden. Okay. I got to check that out. Got to check that out on the League Pass. But there's another game as well happening on Thursday. Prime time, baby.
I know which one you talk about.
Boston Celtics against the Brooklyn Nets. Kyrie against Boston? Come on now. There's always going to be some love and storylines that come along with that. But this is a different Kyrie Irving we're talking about. Even though Kyrie's always been Kyrie, this is a mature Kyrie. This mature Kyrie in his game and as well as his stature, that's a different beast to deal with. And I want to see how Ben Simmons plays against the big lineups, especially against guys like Robert Williams as well. Now, 9 out of 10, who defensively he might have to guard the next class and can't hold his own. But outside of that game, there is one more game, just one more game I got to check out. And for me, that is the Cleveland Cavaliers against the Portland Trailblazers. Same night, Thursday. I got to see what Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell do going up against Damian Lillard and Anthony Simmons. I mean, those backcourt duos are electrifying. And I can't wait to see how they match up on primetime moments such as this. So those are my 3 games that I'm going to pay attention to for sure heading out throughout this week.
Not to mention Portland with Jeremy Grant, who, as we know, is having a career year right now, averaging 22-4 for a Portland team that's within the thick of the play-in race. It kind of been faltering a little bit, but they still got some time to get it fully together over there. But my game of the week to watch, you took one of them with Boston and Brooklyn. That's definitely the first. But it's one game that I feel like not too many people have highlighted on their calendar enough. And it's on League Pass, and it's a game that should be on NBA TV, or at least picked up by them. And that's on Saturday, January 14th, Memphis at Indiana, 6 p.m. Central Time. If you like stellar backcourts that feature incredible point guard play, then this is your battle. This game features one of the NBA's finest finishers in the paint, with Ja Morant going toe-to-toe up against one of the best and setting up his teammates and the current league leader in assists per contest in Tyrese Halliburton, who has really been the focal point behind the Pacers offense and their success as of late. Pacers, as of this recording, they boast a 15-7 record at home this year, and they won 8 out of their last 10 as well. Buddy Hield currently leads the NBA in three-point field goals made, having knocked down 158 trays on the year through 41 games thus far, on the way to shoot nearly 43% shooting-wise from beyond the arc. I get that Memphis is tied atop of the West with Denver and riding hot on a 7-game win streak as of this recording, which is currently the best among active winning streaks in the league. However, should this streak remain fully intact from the start of this weekend, it's a game you certainly want to have circled on your calendar. Might I add, this matchup also going to feature 2 of the game's top shot blockers, and Miles Turner and Jaren Jackson Jr. also. Didn't even mention Desmond Bane, who's been a sharpshooter of his own. Like I said, if you like games with high-flying backcourts that can attack the paint, kick it out to the shooters that are knocking down with the big men who, if you bring it any weak stuff in the lane, going to reject it. This is the game. You got to mark it down, because I don't think this is going to be no easy game for Memphis at all.
Those are all good games, man, but I got to throw you a curveball. We are recording this this will be the last recording prior to MLK Day, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, happening on Monday, the 16th. You know, the NBA is known for having a lot of illustrious games on the 16th to celebrate it on an MLK Day. What is the MLK Day game that, in your mind, is the game for fans to watch?
The MLK Day? I haven't really seen the lineup, man, in the NBA. I know, of course, you got Memphis, you got games in Atlanta, which are the pillars for MLK Day. But just looking at the schedule, bro, right now, I say Pelicans and Cavs. That's a game people need to have highlighted. That would be a game that really should be on the national schedule if they still did like 3 games, if it wasn't for NFL wildcard weekend getting in the way. So I say that's a game I have on my TV through League Pass at 2:00 Central Time.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because you know it's on my roster. But I think another game that I really do would like to check out is obviously the primetime game, Phoenix and Memphis, man. Obviously, we know Phoenix is, hurt, and we just got done talking about them throughout the show. But, anytime you talk about Memphis, you got to talk about Martin Luther King and unfortunately what is connected to it, which it does involve his assassination. But Memphis is a different team, man. And you know how, as sad as that occasion in that city could be, it's that much more electrifying when Ja Morant walks into your building. And with that being the homestand too, I want to see how Phoenix upholds themselves against a thriving Grizzlies team who you just mentioned, who top shot blocker in Jaren Jackson and electrifying player in Ja Morant with sharpshooter in Desmond Bane. Seeing it up close was a special highlight to see. I know it's going to be something special for the national world to watch on a national platform like the Grizzlies and Suns will be playing.
Absolutely. But I want to thank everybody for taking the time out to check in and check out another edition of the Open Run podcast presented by War Media. Make sure to check out everything that we got across our YouTube channel at War Media and all of our great content on our Substack page. For myself, Gabriel Wilkins, my man Josh Hicks. So long, everybody.